Spearhead from Space premiered on 3 January 1970, marking pivotal transformations in Doctor Who. It introduced Jon Pertwee as the Third Doctor, shifted the show into colour, and, due to a BBC technician's strike, was filmed entirely on 16mm film, mostly on location. This story inaugurated the unit era, anchoring the Doctor on Earth under Time Lord-imposed exile and establishing a new narrative era under producer Derek Sherwin. Robert Holmes's script weaves cosmic threat with an immediate earthbound crisis, animate plastics, while cultivating a more action-oriented, mature tone. Gasmentoine 2, Regeneration and Earthbound Rebirth. The serial opens with the freshly regenerated Doctor collapsing outside his TARDIS, disoriented and physically vulnerable, 2 hearts beating too slowly, blood unidentifiable by human doctors, 10 beats a minute. Captured in Ashbridge Cottage Hospital, his alien physiology is emphasized. This science focus is also in the scene that introduces the meteor shower that unleashes the Nestene threat. From the outset, the show clarifies. This is a different Doctor, physically, emotionally, scientifically. His exile is sealed when the Time Lords deactivate the TARDIS, grounding the show firmly on Earth. This soft reboot introduces audiences to a Doctor whose intelligence is matched by boldness and technological curiosity, laying groundwork for a more worldly character. 3. Introduction of Unit and Liz Shaw enter Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart, later a family pillar of Doctor Who. Unit's involvement positions global security and military optics within the story. The Brigadier seeks a scientific advisor, bringing in the newly introduced Liz Shaw, a Cambridge researcher. Their first meeting, with the Doctor in hospital, establishes tension and intrigue. Liz embodies intellectual rigour and scepticism, offering a grounded synergy with the eccentric Doctor. Their dynamic blends academic debate with covert investigation, deepening the narrative structure and enriching the scientific-military blend unique to the Unit era. 4. Rise of the Autons and Nestene Consciousness. The meteorites turn out to be Nestene energy units, activating plastic Autons in a toy factory, replacing humans with killer mannequins. This symbolism, everyday objects becoming agents of horror, is harrowing and viscerally unnerving. Experts agree. Spearhead blends the surreal and uncanny seamlessly. Den of Geek cites its haunting and frightening imagery, where shop window dummies induce genuine terror. The AV Club calls the Auton attack effectively chilling. Such horror, people attacked in familiar settings, elevates the dramatic stakes and marks a tonal shift from past, more fantastical storylines. And 5. Plot progression and confrontation. As the Doctor regains his faculties, Unit investigates the factory. The Doctor develops an electroshock device to counter the Autons, a plotline that balances action and cerebral strategy. In one dramatic confrontation, the Nestene manifests in a tentacled plastic creature, a finale where the Doctor and Liz infiltrate the factory. The Doctor is physically attacked, forcing Liz to deploy the electroshock device. The Nestene collapses and all Autons deactivate, a satisfying payoff to the escalating tension. 6. Themes: Exile, Identity, Science and Horror. A. Exile and identity, regeneration and TARDIS deactivation signify existential transformation. The Doctor must now reorient himself on a foreign world, a theme mirrored in his impaired physiology and newfound vulnerability. B. Science and skepticism. Liz Shaw's role anchors the scientific narrative. She approaches the abnormal with empirical rigour, contrasting Unit's suspicion-based response. Much like the character Dana Scully in the TV series The X-Files and Samantha Carter in Stargate SG-1 decades later. C. Everyday horror. Auton attacks tap into deep-seated fear, reflecting ghostly, uncanny valley aesthetics. The mundane turned monstrous remains a hallmark of Doctor Who horror. 7. Production. Film, colour and commentary shot entirely on film. Spearhead from Space boasts bigger visuals and superior cinematic texture. As The Guardian's Philip O'Neill notes, this allowed for a polished feature film quality when re-released on Blu-ray. The colour transition enhanced horror. Autumn blank eyes and plastic sheen rendered more terrifying than monochrome ever could. DVD commentaries by Nicholas Courtney, Caroline John, Terence Dix and Derek Sherwin offer a treasure trove of behind-the-scenes insights, highlighting thematic intentions and production challenges, such as the strike-induced shift to location shooting. 8. Legacy and influence. Spearhead from Space set definitive precedents. The Unit-centered Earth era. a scientifically adept companion and blending of horror with sci-fi. IGN calls it a nearly complete top-to-bottom reinvigoration of the show. Den of Geek places it as the best new Doctor story until the 11th hour. Radio Times lauds it as an extraordinary debut, and BBC mandates cement its unique production pedigree. Autons would return in Terror of the Autons, 1971, where they were reintroduced alongside the Master and used plastic daffodils, killer dolls, and even inflatable armchairs to murder civilians, heightening the surreal horror. In Rose, 2005, they spearheaded the revival of the series, posing as shop window mannequins that launched a citywide attack in London, establishing a modern tone of domestic terror and introducing a war-scarred Ninth Doctor. In The Pandorica Opens, 2010, they appeared as Roman centurions, Auton duplicates designed to infiltrate and betray the Doctor, revealing a more strategic, covert use in a wider trap set by his enemies. These evolving portrayals confirmed their enduring villainous legacy and narrative flexibility across eras. And so, to conclude, in Spearhead from Space, Doctor Who transformed, narratively, aesthetically, and tonally. Pertwee arrived with gravitas and alien eccentricity. Unit became the ongoing narrative focus. Liz Shaw brought scientific credibility, and the Autons transformed innocence into terror. The fully filmic colour production rendered the show cinematic, and the Earthbound era began in earnest. Its influence reverberates through the franchise. Companion exiles, militarized story arcs, and uncanny horror tropes proliferate, from the Sontaran experiment to Spyfall. For viewers new and old, Spearhead remains the ideal gateway, accessible, thrilling, and foundational. After this deep dive, I encourage you to revisit or discover this landmark serial and revel in its pioneering style and enduring impact. Check the description below for a link to help you find out more about Spearhead from Space. And now, a detailed synopsis of the story. Warning, spoilers. Doctor Who. Spearhead from Space. Episode 1, Synopsis. The first episode of Spearhead from Space marks a bold new beginning for Doctor Who, both narratively and stylistically. Broadcast on the 3rd of January 1970, it introduces the third Doctor, Jon Pertwee, inaugurates the use of colour television in the series, and begins the Earthbound Unit era, all within a taut 25-minute installment packed with mystery and suspense. The episode opens with a curious astronomical event. A series of meteorites crash to Earth in a rural part of England. These meteorites appear unnatural, drawing the attention of UNIT, United Nations Intelligence Task Force, led by Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart, Nicholas Courtney, who is already concerned about an increase in unexplained global phenomena. Meanwhile, the TARDIS materializes nearby, and a strange man, later identified as the Doctor, collapses outside the ship, unconscious. Taken to Ashbridge Cottage Hospital, he confounds medical staff. His physiological readings are non-human, and he has 2 hearts. Though he appears humanoid, his biology is clearly alien. The attending physicians are baffled by his anomalous anatomy, including his resistance to conventional drugs and unidentifiable blood chemistry. At unit headquarters, the Brigadier is preparing for the arrival of a new scientific advisor, Dr. Elizabeth Liz Shaw, Caroline John, a brilliant but skeptical Cambridge scientist who is unconvinced by the Brigadier's briefings on alien incursions. Nonetheless, she agrees to collaborate after learning of the unusual meteor shower and the strange man recently admitted to hospital. Back at Ashbridge, the Doctor briefly regains consciousness. When he hears UNIT is involved, he becomes agitated and attempts to escape. In a comically disjointed but resourceful sequence, he steals the hospital administrator's shoes and clothes and attempts to leave. However, he is recaptured before he can fully abscond. The moment is one of the first in which Pertwee's eccentric charm and physical comedy begin to shine through. Simultaneously, UNIT begins collecting the meteorites. Unknown to them, the plastic polyhedrons contain components of a larger hidden alien threat, the Nestene Consciousness. We see local poacher Sam Seeley find one and hide it away, unaware that this act of curiosity may soon endanger everyone around him. The episode ends with a growing sense of unease. Although the Doctor is back under supervision, his identity remains unconfirmed, and the nature of the meteorites remains mysterious. The viewer is left with a series of unresolved questions. Who is this man? Why is he so concerned about UNIT? And what are the strange, seemingly inorganic objects scattered across the countryside? This first episode sets the tone for the Pertwee era with remarkable efficiency. It emphasizes realism, military cooperation, and earthbound alien threats, while introducing a Doctor who is more physically involved and scientifically hands-on than his predecessors. With its filmic look, updated format, and tighter plotting, Spearhead from Space Episode 1 immediately distinguishes itself as a turning point in the series, promising a darker, more grounded and contemporary kind of adventure. Doctor Who. Spearhead from Space. Alsace. Episode 2. Synopsis. Episode 2 of Spearhead from Space deepens the mystery surrounding the meteorites, expands the scope of the alien threat, and begins to establish the new Doctor's personality, competence, and unique relationship with UNIT and humanity. The serial continues to blend scientific intrigue, military investigation, and unsettling horror with growing tension. The episode opens with the newly regenerated Doctor still under observation at Ashbridge Cottage Hospital. Though now conscious, he remains weak and disoriented, his memory only partially recovered. Liz Shaw is introduced more fully as she arrives at UNIT HQ. Initially skeptical about the Brigadier's claims of alien activity, she soon becomes intrigued by the evidence, particularly the strange meteorites recovered in the area. Meanwhile, local poacher Sam Seeley, having secretly taken one of the meteorite polyhedrons, hides it under his floorboards, unaware that others, humans and non-humans, are now searching for it. UNIT continues its efforts to retrieve the scattered meteorites, but many are still missing. Tensions rise as a mysterious figure is seen breaking into the hospital, targeting the Doctor. The attempt fails, but it becomes clear that the unknown invaders are aware of the Doctor's presence and want him out of the way. Back at UNIT, the Brigadier remains suspicious about the man in the hospital claiming to be the Doctor. He doesn't recognize his new face, and no one can confirm his identity. But this Doctor, despite his erratic behavior, soon proves himself. He removes medical monitoring devices, escapes from his hospital room, and commandeers a car to make his way to UNIT headquarters. In a comedic and action-packed sequence, he outwits hospital staff and drives off, showcasing Jon Pertwee's interpretation of the Doctor as physically active and mischievously charismatic. Notably, a humorous scene where he sees a door marked Doctors Only and of course enters. This humorous Doctors style sign pops up again in Doctor Who as an occasional running gag, most notably in the car park in the Doctor Who telemovie with Paul McGann. Upon arriving at UNIT HQ, Pertwee's new Doctor remonstrates with the guard, played by producer Derek Sherwin, forces himself inside, then formally introduces himself as the Doctor, much to the Brigadier's shock and disbelief. However, he begins to win over Liz Shaw, who is intrigued by his rapid reasoning and scientific insight. Simultaneously, the threat posed by the Nestene Consciousness starts to materialize in more overt ways. In a plastics factory, owned by the enigmatic Channing and Hibbert, strange experiments are underway. Workers seem entranced or manipulated by a hidden influence, and Channing appears to be operating under the control of an alien intelligence. The factory is revealed as the epicenter of a growing plot involving artificial life forms created from plastic, what will soon be revealed as the Autons. Episode 2 subtly builds tension through layers of paranoia and secrecy. Poacher Seeley becomes increasingly disturbed by the object he's taken, while UNIT is baffled by the nature of the meteorites, which are revealed to be part of a complex alien system. The Doctor, now recovering, is ready to assist UNIT, but his identity and allegiances remain unproven. As the episode ends, the tone grows darker. Something is awakening in the plastics factory, and UNIT, Liz Shaw, and the Doctor stand on the edge of uncovering a terrifying truth. Earth is already under silent invasion. Doctor Who. Spearhead from Space. Episode 3 Synopsis. In Episode 3 of Spearhead from Space, the sinister nature of the Nestene invasion begins to manifest more clearly, and the Doctor becomes fully engaged in confronting the growing threat. The episode balances investigative drama with creeping horror as the Autons emerge from the shadows and the true scale of the alien incursion is hinted at. The episode begins with the Doctor now fully recovered and integrated into UNIT as their new scientific advisor. Although Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart remains somewhat skeptical about this new Doctor's identity, the Doctor quickly proves his value by examining one of the recovered meteorites. He discovers it is not simply a rock but part of a larger system, something artificial and highly advanced. His analysis reveals that each meteorite contains a component of a larger energy unit, likely a control system or biological transmission network. Meanwhile, the subplot involving the plastics factory takes a darker turn. The enigmatic Mr. Channing, whose cold, emotionless demeanor has begun to raise suspicions, is now fully in control of the factory's operations. His influence over the manager, Mr. Hibbert, intensifies. Hibbert begins to question the strange activities and the eerie changes in the factory's production processes, but Channing quickly reasserts control, warning him not to interfere. At UNIT headquarters, Liz Shaw continues to assist the Doctor in analysing the meteorites and their alien signatures. She becomes increasingly fascinated with the Doctor's knowledge and the advanced scientific principles he introduces, marking the beginning of their mutual respect and collaboration. Their interaction adds a layer of scientific realism and chemistry to the developing plot. Meanwhile, the mysterious meteorite stolen by poacher Sam Seeley becomes the center of attention. Unit troops arrive at his cottage searching for the missing piece. Seeley, now terrified, hides it and tries to keep it from his wife, but the alien force is closing in. The tension escalates when an Auton, disguised as a mannequin, comes to retrieve the meteorite. It breaks into the Seeley home in a chilling sequence that marks the Auton's first true on-screen menace. Silent, unstoppable, and entirely inhuman. This attack confirms the Doctor's suspicions. The meteorites are energy conductors for a larger, coordinated intelligence, the Nestene Consciousness, seeking to animate plastic replicas and take control of human society. He warns UNIT that a new form of warfare has arrived, an invasion by synthetic life that can mimic and replace people. The episode ends with mounting urgency. The Autons have begun to move openly, their actions no longer limited to the shadows. The Doctor, Liz, and the Brigadier realize they are facing a foe unlike anything encountered before. Emotionless, tireless, and already embedded within the infrastructure of Earth's economy and industry. Episode 3 intensifies the serial's themes of identity, control, and the uncanny horror of the familiar turned deadly. The Doctor's scientific insight, Liz's growing trust, and UNIT's rising military involvement all converge as the battle against the Nestene begins to escalate in earnest. Doctor Who, Spearhead from Space. Episode 4. Synopsis. Episode 4 of Spearhead from Space delivers a tense and action-packed climax to Jon Pertwee's debut serial, bringing the horror of the Auton threat into the public eye and showcasing the Doctor's ingenuity in the face of overwhelming danger. As the Nestene Consciousness prepares to take control of Earth through its synthetic army, UNIT, the Doctor, and Liz Shaw must act quickly to prevent catastrophe. The episode opens with chaos erupting across Britain. Autons, plastic mannequins animated by the Nestene, begin attacking civilians in the streets, emerging from shop windows and department stores in one of the most iconic and disturbing sequences in Doctor Who history. The show's use of real urban locations, enhanced by the filmic quality of this all-location story, creates a chilling sense of realism. The ordinary and the terrifying blur as lifeless shop dummies become cold-blooded killers. Back at UNIT headquarters, panic spreads. The Doctor and Liz Shaw work together to understand how the Nestene is coordinating the Autons' movements. Through scientific deduction and analysis of the recovered meteorite components, the Doctor concludes that all the polyhedrons are linked via a control signal emanating from the plastics factory, now completely overtaken by the alien intelligence. The Nestene is preparing for total control by transferring itself physically into this world through the energy interface at the factory. Meanwhile, Mr. Hibbert, the factory manager, begins to resist the mental influence exerted by Channing, the Nestene's human-like agent. Haunted by the strange occurrences in his waning autonomy, Hibbert confronts Channing but is ultimately killed, underscoring the alien consciousness's ruthless disregard for human life. With UNIT preparing for a direct assault, the Doctor and Liz infiltrate the factory. They discover a horrific scene. The Nestene creature, a mass of writhing plastic tentacles, is emerging from its energy conduit. The visual is grotesque and alien, unlike anything seen before on the show. Channing tries to stop them, but UNIT soldiers breach the factory just in time to engage the Autons. The Doctor attempts to communicate with the Nestene, appealing to its reason, but is physically attacked by its tentacles. Liz, thinking quickly, uses the Doctor's makeshift energy disruptor, a device designed to sever the Nestene signal, to destroy the connection between the creature and its Auton army. With the signal broken, the Autons across Britain collapse lifelessly. Channing disintegrates, revealed to have been a synthetic construct himself. The crisis averted, the Doctor is offered a permanent post with UNIT as their scientific advisor. Though initially hesitant, he accepts, on the condition that he can use their resources to repair the TARDIS. The Brigadier reluctantly agrees. Liz, having witnessed the Doctor's brilliance, agrees to stay on as his assistant, setting the stage for a new partnership and a new era. Episode 4 concludes Spearhead from Space with a dramatic synthesis of horror, science fiction, and action. It establishes the earthbound format of the Third Doctor's tenure and leaves audiences with a compelling blend of closure and promise for adventures yet to come. Well, I hope you enjoyed this explainer video and synopsis of Doctor Who, the Spearhead from Space. Thank you for watching.